Hi guys, my name is Jay, and I was in Korea for mm, about 12 years, and I worked at the top universities, mostly in Seoul, one university in Gyeonggi-do. And the reason I'm making this video is I have seen different hagwon hell stories and hagwon horror stories, and a lot of mostly younger females giving advice about being in Korea. And I wanted to try to correct some of those common mistakes that I see primarily around contracts, labor laws, and stuff. I first got to Korea in 1999, and I left 12 years later around, I guess it was around 2011, 2012, around that time. And I experienced about everything you've ever heard of. The horror stories prior during my time, every teacher there had a Hagwon horror story, and to be honest, they were much worse than the stories you hear today. When I got to Korea, that was when the internet first really became popular, and so then you had teachers sharing ideas. We didn't know what the labor board was at that time. We found that out. I did take two or three employers to the labor board, and we ended up I end up winning. Um, so the first thing is I want to point out that when you hear people say negotiate the contract, or if it's written in the contract and you consulted to it and so on, um, something I'll explain in another video is Korea's labor laws were changed about 10 years ago, and they're much stronger today than they were before. It was a result of a Korean guy who had a PhD, I think, from Seoul National, and he ended up committing suicide, and he wrote a suicide note to some members of Congress, and as a result, they changed the labor laws. And today, the labor laws in Korea are much stronger than most people realize. And the first thing you have to know about contracts and so on in Korea is it doesn't matter what's in your contract, the labor laws are preceded. So if your employer signs you something, like, for example, I saw one video where a lady said that the contract says they don't pay severance pay. Even if the contract says that, the labor law is preceded, every business has to pay severance pay. And there is an office you go to, you don't even have to ask your employer. It's not their choice, they have to do it. And you go to the labor board first, and when I went to the labor board, the lady actually called my boss and said, "You don't want to make a big deal out of this, I'm telling you you're wrong." And he was wrong, and he paid it. So that's one of the most important things to know, is that no matter what's in your contract, the labor laws precede it. The second thing is the there are different rules that exist in terms of being outside that contract. And what I found in Korea, I guess the biggest shock I had was the fact that the hagwons are a business. I didn't really know what a hagwon was before I got there, and then when I got there, I realized what I was taken from the airport directly into a brand new hagwon that opened their doors that day, and it was all a shock to me. It was a big shock, one of the bigger shocks I've ever gone through. Well, the hagwon owner or the manager, will try to get everything they can out of you. And when I was there, we had our hagwon owner came up and said, "Oh, you're going to attend this marketing event this weekend in your free time. And if you don't say no to them, they push you." But the problem is, if what I said to my hagwon owner, "This marketing event I'm going to on the weekend, am I doing that because you're a friend of mine, or am I doing that for work?" And he didn't want to pay me, so he said, "You're doing it because you're a friend of mine." And they really try to push that whole relationship charge. But you can keep your contract, and they cannot force you to do those events. And if they do, or if they threaten to fire you, you can say, "Okay." In fact, it's very difficult for a hagwon in Korea to fire you for something like that if you didn't want to attend it or something along that lines. And the rules are very, very sketchy. All right, that's my first video. I'm going to get back to other videos a little bit later on. I see different people talking about things, and I think it'd be good to clear those up.